Salutations. Welcome to another edition of OXYWORD, and I am your host, Joel Wilborn. Now just work with me for a moment here and think. When you are thinking about the image of a convicted criminal, what do you think of? Do you think the person next door who's always partying, heavy in the drugs, somebody who has no regard for the law, somebody who likes to inflict harm on people or doesn't care about anybody but himself? Or do you think of a wife, a mother, a daughter, a victim? This episode centers around a young lady currently incarcerated at the Washington Correction Center for Women, and she has a very interesting background. And so I ask that you please take note of the situation that put her in prison and what we can do to help prevent something like this from happening in the future. Now on the line here, I have a young lady who is currently incarcerated. Will you state your name, please?
Brittany Korzonthowski.
Now, usually at the end of these interviews, I give the person an option to contact you. Would you mind if anybody in the audience would contact you through JPay?
No.
Okay. Then I'll post that at the end of this interview. Now,
Okay.
You've been in prison for how long?
I've been incarcerated since June 15th of 2018, so just going on 4 years.
Now, would you say your sentence was justified?
There's sort of a controversy on that for me. Initially, I was charged with first-degree murder and 4 gun enhancements. I had shot a gentleman that showed up at my house and beat me up and attempted to hit my children. In the long run, after getting my daughter's statement and identifying the facts, they dropped my sentencing down from that to a second-degree manslaughter with a 36-month enhancement. I felt the only reason that it was fair at all was because I was willing to not put my child on the stand in order to go to trial. But the judge and the prosecutor both stated in the middle of sentencing that I should have gone to trial. I would have won on grounds of self-defense. And the judge even addressed the victim's family and gave them 3 circumstances where people had won on less in the last 12 months. So I wouldn't say justified as far as what's right and wrong, but I would say fair for the fact that I didn't want to put my daughter on the stand in trial. However, I felt that it was really not justified that they'd want to put a 13-year-old on the stand with their mom in court. So.
Okay, so you think something could have been done differently at the trial?
Yeah.
Okay. So what could the community have done to help you stay away from committing that crime?
I feel like a lot of how my crime came along was because I ran out of resources. I was a first-time offender, but as a single parent, I didn't have access to a lot of resources. And I had even been in contact with CPS, so CPS should have provided me with resources that I had asked for multiple times. A range of 60 or so emails and phone messages and text messages in 30 days. And so I feel like the community could have provided better resources for me to have referrals for things like women's shelters and assistance with childcare and stuff like that. I just didn't have access to those things at that time.
Now, let's say that you were given the opportunity to talk to a group of high schoolers and give them some kind of advice, to help them to get through on their life, what would you tell high schoolers?
Probably the same thing I tell my high schoolers, which is you're bound to make mistakes in life. Just do your best not to make the mistakes of the people before you. There's a reason why history shouldn't repeat itself, and that's so that we can break the chain and stop the cycle. And to remember that their education's key.
So you're a big proponent of education?
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think of the current education system?
I think it has a lot of flaws. I think in order to be able to keep up with the times, they've made a lot of advancements and improvements to systems that worked. And in the process, they sort of broke them. And so you have children jumping, from one grade level to the next, not catching on, and then being put in special classes and whatnot to be able to be in the same class as their peers, feeling, like they're making their effort when they're not. I don't think that they're enforcing academic effort in the children. I think they make it too easy with technology, and I think that they took a lot of the old-fashioned doing things by hand and paper out, and it sort of ruined the way children learn.
Okay, so we could use some improvements on our education. What kind of things do you think our legislatures or legislators can do to help improve our justice system?
Well, I think they need to give more chances to people with violent crimes and restrict the privileges that they give to people that have child crimes. And I feel that they should do something to give people with violent crimes more opportunities to show their change too. If we have things like SOSA and FOSA, all these other things and DOSA, drug offenders, sex offenders, child crimes, stuff like that, they get all of these opportunities, and I feel like they don't give those opportunities to people with violent crimes, so they should establish a system where we have some type of offender sentencing alternative.
Now, you've been in prison for a little while, and you've taken advantage of some of the courses over there. What do you think is the most helpful resource that you've partaken in prison?
I would have to say the track program. The track program is trade-related apprenticeship coaching program, and what it does is it prepares us as women to go out into the workforce and become part of non-traditional employment, for society. And so I feel like track really does give a really great opportunity to people to make living wages, where we can go out and not have to depend on partners to pay the other half of the bills. We can go and have all of the things that we need in order to survive, like health benefits and pensions, and kind of keep us accountable from abstaining from drug use and criminal activity, because if you do those things, you can't have that career.
Now, are there any problems that you've run across while you were incarcerated that you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, I think I feel one of the biggest problems that we end up with repercussions from in the DOC is that they have a lack of communication. They don't communicate well, and everybody's never on the same page. And I feel like, the officers don't get held accountable for things that they do, whereas they're allowed to play favorites and do all kinds of just weird stuff that makes the prison situation not functional. It creates a lot of chaos. And also, I think there's just too many chiefs. Not enough Indians here, I guess. It's a really weird, cheap cliche, but everybody wants to be in charge, so they want to change the rules constantly. And us as inmates, we develop a system and we get used to the structure. And when the structure is being messed with or pulled one way and the other, then we're getting in trouble for things that we do here because we live here and we know that's the way it runs. And when we're recycling staff and running through new people constantly and they don't communicate well, it really messes with the way that we live our lives here.
Okay, so as you know, we're currently going through a pandemic. And the governor of the state of Washington, he had a mandate set down where people were required to get vaccinated or they could lose their job. And so we lost a lot of staff in the Department of Corrections. So how has the pandemic, this mandate, and the reduction in staff, how has that affected your life within the prison?
Well, it's taken away a lot of our good senior officers, the people that know the way this place should run, number one, and number two, have established rapport and respect with the inmates. And so then it's bringing in all of these, rookies that want to tell people what to do and how to do it and think that they have that right. And granted, I get that they're COs, but it really affects the rapport between inmate and staff. They're not getting the proper training. They're not being taught by those senior officers that have left. And it's affecting people's mental health, their emotional health, their physical health. We're seeing restrictions on things like our run clubs. And, we depend on that for all three of those things. I know it sounds menial, but being able to get out there and just jack those endorphins up and do something healthy for ourselves instead of sit around and gorge on carbohydrates is a big deal. And when we don't have the staff, we can't do it. We can't go to the gym. We can't participate in things like mental health. We can't go to school. So our programming is being affected. Also, they've shut down the kitchen up here, so they've got people who are elderly walking all the way from the hill to the downtown kitchen, which is quite a hike in the winter, the rain, the snow, and, they've already got underlying health conditions that's dangerous for their health. And then you have these new staff coming in who are out there exposed to COVID, hanging out in the office without their masks on, and, just kind of doing whatever they want. And it's just creating a really negative environment.
Now, you described the Hill. Not everybody knows what the Hill is. Could you give a description of what the Hill is over there in the prison?
Absolutely. So the Hill is our minimum security campus, and it is set up of 3 units, but they've recently shut 1 unit down. L unit used to be where they had the therapeutic community, which was the intensive inpatient treatment that people participate in here. They recently shut it down and moved that in with general population in K unit. And then we have a 3rd unit that is fenced off.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
And that is J unit. J unit is where the mothers go when they are pregnant. It's called the baby unit, and they're allowed to live there with their children until released. They're supervised by caseworkers, and they have a daycare up here. And it's basically like our own little campus on a campus. When we are on the Hill in minimum custody, we have to be MI1.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
And that gives us opportunity for more programs.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing your time with us and giving us a little bit of insight of what goes on inside the prison. And before we run out of time here, is there anything you would like to say to end this interview?
Just I think what you're doing is really...
thank you for tuning in. I hope you were able to learn a little bit about some of the people that are incarcerated and what situations put them there. There's quite a few people on this channel who have different takes on the penal system, and I ask that you take a look at them and discuss this. Let's work together to help our children, to help our neighbors, our friends, co-workers, anybody that could be in a volatile situation. And sometimes the red flags are very obvious. So remember to subscribe to the channel in case there are any updates. And we ask that you get involved. The best way to prevent crime is to acknowledge the motivations, the sources, find out what's going on in the person's mind. And hopefully this video helped you to understand a little bit more about one person and how she feels about being incarcerated. So go ahead and visit the site AmericanQuittinsSociety.org and get out, talk, discuss this issue, and let's reduce recidivism and reduce the prison population.